This is KBC English Service.
It's Nick Dada getting your day off to a flying start with the Breakfast Club on KBC English Service.
Kenya's official national radio.
אוויר הרים צלול כיין וריח אורנים ניסה ברוח ארבעים עם כל פעמונים ובתרדמת אילן ואבן שבויה בחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני גינות ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני גינות איך יבשו בורות המים כיכר השוק ריקה ואין פוקד את הר הבית בעיר העתיקה ובמרות אשר בסלע מהלילות רוחות ואין יורד אל ים המלח בדרך יריחו ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני גינות ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני גינות אך בבואי היום לשיר לך ולך לקשור כתרים קטונתי מצעיר בנייך ומאחרון המשוררים בשמך צורף את השפתיים כנשיקת שרף אם אשכחך ירושלים אשר זהב ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני גינות ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני גינות
Admit it, this was the first time you heard that song Right here, didn't you? That's what's up. You learn new things, hear new things every single day right here on KBC English Services, The Breakfast Club. My name's Nick, and that means it is time for conversation.
This is the big conversation on The Breakfast Show here on KBC English Service.
And as far as conversation is concerned, this one is a big one. 8th of March, that is this Saturday, International Women's Day 2025. But because The Breakfast Club will not be on air on that day, we figured that, you know what, let's take advantage of days like this and consider this a preamble to the 2025 International Women's Day. This year's theme, by the way, for all women and girls, rights, equality, empowerment, which is interesting because there was a message that came in earlier from one of our listeners, and they said, if there's one thing, because there's a question that we put out and we asked, tell us what is the one challenge facing women in Kenya that you'd like to see addressed. Dr. Mulinya from Kaimosi Friends University said representation, equal representation for women, and I like that. So this morning we are joined by a very esteemed guest. Take a look at this CV, a political and economic regionals officer expert, UN coordinator, spouse of the Israeli ambassador to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Malawi, and Seychelles. Lived and worked within our region for a while. So this will put her in a great position to bridge the gap between global discourse and local realities. I am very honored to have joining us in studio this morning a distinguished voice in international affairs, YAHEL Margovsky-Lotem. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's really a wonderful morning, and thank you for hosting me. And I have to add that I'm also a mother.
Oh, how dare I forget to mention that?
Forget that one? Yeah.
And she is also a mother. Congratulations. Thank you so much for making time, for coming here to have this great discussion. Before we get into it, that song that we just played, all right, could you give us a little bit of a background about that song?
Oh, wow. Thank you for that question, because actually I chose this song because this song represents, at least in my eyes, the real Israeli soul. This is the soul, the song about, which is called Jerusalem of Gold, or Gold Jerusalem. And that song was created after, or as we were going through the 6-day war. So for our Kenyan friends, the 6-day war was the attack by 7 Arab countries on Israel during 1967. And Israel was in a very bad position, again attacked by 7 Arab countries. But after 6 days, we won the war. And the main outcome for us as a nation of this war was the ability to unite the two divided parts of our Jerusalem. So the song is very historical one. The song speaks about the Israeli soul that after 2,000 years was reconnected with its holy city, Jerusalem. So this is the song.
Wow. And it's a really cool song. I like it. I like the sound of it. Fun fact, by the way, when I was born, my father was away because he was in Israel, in Jerusalem, actually, for a while. I think he was there for like, what, 3 years, 2 years, something like that. So he used to tell me stuff, but I was a child, so I can't remember most of it, but he says it's a lovely, lovely place. So that's great. A little bit of a connection. All right, so let's get into the meat of the conversation, shall we, YAHEL Margovsky-Lotem? Because you said you want the whole name, and we shall honor that. Every time I'll address you as YAHEL Margovsky-Lotem.
You can just call me YAHEL now.
No, we prefer the whole thing. So let's talk on International Women's Day 2025. Why is International Women's Day 2025 particularly significant, especially with the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and a platform for action? So why is it so significant?
It's a very complicated question, of course. But I want to remind you that this is not the only the Women's Day. We have a in the Women's Month this year, right? Because it's a very important date. And again, why is it important? You know, as a son of a woman, I'm sure, because it's so important for women to be equal in every sphere of our life. Because women are the first, I would say, the first entity that our children face when they come to this world.
There
right?
you go.
Yeah. So when they see their mother, which is an equal part of this society, on every of its aspects, then we grow better people, right? So this is only one answer to your important yet complicated question. Yeah. But I would say that even though we are celebrating this year such an important date, we need to remember that even though women were given, let's say, equalities nowadays, but women still face significant inequalities in their public life or even family life. And we have also to remember that women still face violence these days in their families, in their public sphere, and even though they are treated as equal on the legal level, right? So when we speak about equality and celebrating or commemorating, you choose, right? We need to remember that women are still underrepresented, unequally treated, often in their families, in their communities. And this is something that we need to remember, and we need to remember also that women usually face, unfortunately, they are the first one to be victimized during conflicts, armed conflicts, terrorist attacks, etc. So, of course, it's important, right? So, I would say we need to remember, and we still have a lot of work to be done.
There's still a whole lot of work to be done. Indeed, I agree with you. Now, there's this saying that they say men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And I think the idea behind it is to say all men are the same, all women are the same. But you've lived over here, you've lived overseas. Have you noticed any striking similarities or very, very striking differences between women in this region that you are in right now and compared to another region?
Wow. Oh, this is a fascinating question that I actually ask myself all the time. I can tell you just what my feelings are, okay?
Fair enough.
Yeah. So my feelings, and this is really from beneath of my heart, I would say that I adore African women. I think they are strong.
Yeah.
I think they are powerful. I think they are matriarchs, right?
Yep.
And even though the African women and even Israeli women, I have to say, we are still not getting equality in the most, I would say, sensitive parts of our life, which is more to the personal, right?
Okay.
Communal level. So similarities, I think a person is a person.
Yeah.
Be it a man or a woman. I can speak about Israeli women. I can speak about myself. I was, I think I told you, I don't remember, before the show, I told you that I went to the army. As being part of Israeli society, our women go to the army. And I was an officer in the boot camp for men.
Oh, wow. How was that?
It was fun. It was not. I'm just kidding. Of course, I was 18 by that time, 17 actually. So it was everything. It was complicated, but it gave me some very important lessons about what is life, what are the relations with people, not men, because I was their commander, right? So,
wow.
Our societies are different, and Israeli women, Western women are very empowered. Yeah, we have this equality that goes even to the army. That's what I was trying to say. But yet, as an African woman, as women in Asia, I don't know, women still face so many challenges, and also men face so many challenges nowadays because of this leftist, let's say, and or postmodernist talk. We have suddenly men suffering from underrepresentation in several spheres of public life because of this need to kind of balance or rebalance, which is also, I think, it's a bit too radical. So I don't believe that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I believe that as our societies go through transformations, we have this power to transform our relations, our connections. And yet, I think that every society has its right to keep its own, how to say, traditions in their family lives, right? So I respect this.
You respect
I
the fact that they have to respect their traditions, but do you see an evolution when it comes to how women are treated and perceived nowadays in comparison to, let's say, the year 2000?
You mean in Kenya, worldwide?
Let's go worldwide.
Okay, so worldwide. Let's go worldwide. You know, speaking about women, rights and freedoms, I just want to remind us, when Kenya got its independence, it got the independence for men and women, right? 1963. But, you know, an interesting fact that we sometimes forget, Switzerland nowadays is very, of course, well-developed country, and it used to be very well-developed even back in history. But you know what year the women got their rights to vote in Switzerland?
No.
1971.
Wow.
Would you believe that, huh? So, yeah. It's a bit surprising. You would never believe. And if I'm not mistaken, nowadays, Switzerland has the best representation of women worldwide, wildly, in governing institution and parliament. So speaking about transformations, right? So, but I'm not representative of Switzerland. I will speak for my country. So my country, you might know that we had Prime Minister Golda Meir. She was a woman, and we are very proud of our Prime Minister. By the way, she was also, before being Prime Minister, she was a Minister of Foreign Affairs that actually put the stone, with the Kenyatta president, the late Kenyatta president of Kenya, for our embassy in Kenya in 1963. So, and our relations with Kenya, Israeli relations, were actually done or created or established 1963 by our by that time foreign minister, later Prime Minister Golda Meir. So it's so it's very interesting. But if we are trying to generalize, of course, the women nowadays are doing better. Again, I would say they are doing better on the more of the on the legal level, rather than other levels of our life, which are also important. And those levels, I think we still have a lot of work to do.
Still a lot of work.
Yeah, and by the way, in Israel, we still didn't get any other prime minister besides that one that we had. So in Hebrew we say this is the the outstanding rule that does not change the main rule. So that the fact that we had one prime minister who was a woman doesn't mean that we are so equal, right?
Right.
So,
okay, I see. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay, Yahel. Let's talk on International Women's Day theme, celebrating achievements and calling for change. Now, having witnessed the dynamism of women in this region. What specific achievements have you observed that can give you a glimmer of hope as to, okay, I see some great progress happening in Kenya and even East Africa?
Yeah. So as I started our conversation, I was really truly keen and open on that one. I really adore Kenyan and African women. Because you see, they're smart, their spirit is really infectious, and they really know what they want. And this is a good basis to build everything. And I'm lucky enough to be working on projects in Kenya and beyond in my diplomatic role that help women and youth here in Kenya. We deal in areas such food security, banking, farming, agriculture. And those projects are led by Kenyan women.
Brilliant.
And with our, of course, with my kind of, let's say, guidance, it's not even guidance, I would say it's the sharing of know-how. Because you might have heard that Israel has this advantage and disadvantage. Or maybe I should put it differently. We have this very interesting disadvantage that gave us many advantages of being established in a desert.
Right.
Israel was established in, it's not even Essel area, it's a desert. So the main part of Israeli territory is desert. But you might have heard that nowadays Israel exports most of a big part, I would say, of agricultural products to Europe. And we are leading in our agri-tech sphere, and we come to Africa, and we come to Kenya, and we come to Asia to share our knowledge. And I'm lucky enough to be in this position to work with Kenyan women. I'm trying to reconnect to what you've asked. And when I go and I meet Kenyan women, I kind of remind, and I'm thinking to myself, I keep thinking, when Kenyan men learn to be as organized and community-minded as their women, the country is going to really take off.
That is true.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the men, we have a lot we need to sort out. Earlier on, you mentioned about, as you know, tradition could be one of the is one of the things that you really respect about societies, different societies. So, given your experience as a UN coordinator and how the UN Women highlights the importance of gender equality, what are some of the most systemic barriers that you've seen hindering gender equality in both the global and in the local contexts?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You see, that's exactly one of the main, I would say, targets, global targets of the UN, to bring those women rights to a level that they could be represented accordingly to their part in society and equally to men. You might know that, and it's a very well-known fact, that women, girls, comprise more than 51% worldwidely. So the nature, the God, whenever you believe, wanted it to be that way. Yeah?
It's by design.
Yeah. So somehow the God wanted us to be the majority. But speaking about challenges, women are still underrepresented in politics. Women are still represented in government. Women are still represented and unpaid equally to men in the big world, let's call it on the global stage, in Western countries as well in developing countries.
Yeah.
So these are the main gaps. And my explanation, and this is my personal thoughts, my explanation to that, as I've been mentioning, the explanation is very deep. The roots of the problem is the perception of women in their societies.
There
right?
you go.
So as you respect your traditions, and as we, by the way, Israeli society is very traditional. Jewish society is very traditional. And we respect family and family roles and rights. And, roles, women have their own roles, and men, it's quite, I would say it somehow resembles the African tradition. So because it's very ancient. But still, as we respect those traditions, we need to remember that respecting, and yet we have to develop. So sometimes women are forced to juggle between their roles as mothers, as members of society, as caretakers, as employees, professionals, and beyond. So women roles are more complicated, and that's why our part in this world is so important and so big, because we grow the next generations of men and women.
So,
yeah,
we really do. 100%. Oof, oh my God, I'm looking at this clock and it's scaring me. 28 minutes before we get to 9 in the morning. It's a big conversation. We're joined by UN Coordinator, Political, Economic and Regional Affairs, YAHEL Margovsky-LOTEM. And we're talking about International Women's Day as well. Reproductive rights, by the way, is a core component of International Women's Day. Now, given your experience in diverse regions, I think you can really help us figure this one out, YAHEL. Cultural nuances, okay, and political landscapes in different regions. These set to impact the accessibility and acceptance of rights like reproductive rights. So, how do you feel that how strong of a force do you feel that cultural nuances and political landscapes have on a place like East Africa?
So East Africa, being a diplomat, and yet. So when you are a diplomat, you kind of you have to generalize, right? But when you generalize, you miss the nuances. So speaking about East Africa or Africa, I feel it's a bit improper, not because of the political correctness. No, I'm Israeli. We are not that politically correct, but. I'm thinking, East Africa is quite a broad region and it's quite different. So there are some countries that kind of stay ahead of another ones. So I cannot speak about East Africa, I cannot speak about Africa, but because there are some African countries speaking about reproductive rights. They don't have rights at all. They have terrible, I don't know, I cannot even call it traditions, but those ways of behavior that somehow took root, which are not that positive, yeah? So, and they treat their women very badly. And still, we see Kenya, which is also a very traditional country, somehow, and it's much more... I would say Kenya is quite ahead of many other countries in the region speaking about that subject. So, and then yet we can see also the big US, United States of America, that has the same issue. How come, right? Very well developed Western country, actually the leader of the free world, speaking about freedom to women, and sometimes we see practices that not exactly somehow resemble the...
They're not in tandem with what they claim.
Not at all, right? So I don't want to go deep into the politics, especially when we are talking about the big U.S. brother, right, of everyone. But as I said before, there are some issues that they have to be resolved on the kind of... It's a very gentle dance between the society traditions, which we have to respect, the uniqueness of each society, which we have to respect, and yet if we want to see our society as being a members of our societies, we need to give away some of the bad habits. Let's call them habits.
Let's call them habits.
Yeah, because habits, it's much easier to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Even though it's not that easy.
21 days of straight focus, and you can be able to drop it just
Yeah.
the same way you can be able to pick it.
You are talking like a smoker in your past.
Well, let's just say I have had conversations about 21 days with a lot of human beings. Now, you've expressed a passion for addressing the unique suffering of women affected by terrorism. So, in your view, how do you see terrorism disproportionately impacting women? And in your view, what support systems, if there are specific support systems that you maybe can think of that are crucial for women's recovery and even empowerment beyond recovery?
Yeah, it's a very tough topic, actually, to me on a personal level, because you might know that on October the 7th, 2023, it would be more than almost 1.5 years from now. Many of our, we were attacked by a terrorist organization, Hamas, our country, Israel, and its affiliated terrorist organization, and many of our civilians were civilians, including children, toddlers, babies, and women that were murdered, beheaded, raped, and beyond. Even, if I cite numbers, on October the 7th, 1,163 Israelis were attacked and murdered by Hamas organization, terrorist Islamic organization Hamas. Out of them, 763 civilians were killed, mostly women and girls and children. Yeah. So, and nowadays, and again, 250, additionally to that, 254 were kidnapped to Gaza, and more than 70 nowadays remaining in Gaza. Recently, we got a very terrible news that a mother of two red-haired babies was very terribly murdered, being captive in Gaza with her 2 children. One was not yet even 1 year old, and the other one was almost 4. So now let me come back, out of our big but small story of Israel, that it has been attacked, and the women were the main victim, or one of the main women and kids, actually, to be victimized during the terrorist attack. Let's go globally, yeah? So if we are talking globally, there are still, according to the, UN Security General Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten, she's a representative and the main figure on those issues worldwide. So according to her data, today, as we speak, there are more than 21 armed or terrorist conflicts active in the world. And guess what? The main victims of those conflicts are men, girls, and also men, of course. We cannot neglect, but women and youth,
children.
they are the easiest, unfortunately, and the main victim of those conflicts. As in our case in Israel, women were the easiest and the first victim to be raped, to be beheaded, to be murdered. The same thing goes on each and every region in this world. And unfortunately, let's zoom a bit in, speaking about the African region.
Right.
There are so many. Just to cite a few conflicts that are active nowadays. And again, women get to be the first victims, and children. I'm speaking, of course, about DRC nowadays. I'm speaking about what else? Mali. There are so many countries in this region that actually go to the same terrible reality of women being victimized during the conflict. So we see that, speaking about equality, yeah, and commemorating all these big dates, we need to remember that women are still the main victims of these atrocities.
Yeah.
So what can be done? If I would speak under my chapeau, my hat, as a Israeli representative in this case, right, that works at the UN and works with African women, and just as a mother. So I would say the legal system on the global level should be fine-tuned to make sure that sexual violence will not be normalized. It cannot be normalized. It cannot be that Kenyan newspapers mention those things, that one woman was beheaded and found somewhere on the last page. This is normalization of victims of sexual abuse. You cannot normalize it. It's not normal. So the legal system should be stronger. We need to take care that those that are perpetrating this, they are punished. They don't go without, so punished, of course. How do you punish a terrorist organization, for instance? What do you do? How do you catch those people? Yeah? So there are sanctions. There are so many tools that the international community has developed and has been developing since, as we are talking. But speaking on the personal level and on the level of a mother and just a part of being just of society, we should start from our home. Yeah, we need to teach our girls and especially our boys, I would say. Yeah,
especially the boys.
The boys. Women are dear to us. Yeah, women are dear to us. Women is not something that you can victimize. Not as your wife, not as your friend, not as you have to honor your women. You need to respect. And if we will be successful in teaching our boys how to behave, very simple, how to respect. I believe we will be more successful in this.
Society will be so much better.
Yeah.
Indeed, respect is paramount. I like that last point you made. I want to pull it back to something we were talking about earlier on that thing about traditions. Maybe based on have those conversations from the home. Do you feel like that's one of those things that we can effectively implement? It could help dismantle those cultural and societal norms that have perpetuated gender inequality. You think? Maybe? Perhaps? No?
I don't know.
Because like you said, it's like the traditions, right? Based on the region, based on the society, based on the tribe even, they have their certain traditions. But maybe if the conversation starts from the homes, it might grow. It's just an idea that popped in my head. Maybe it's harder to implement.
Oh yeah, you see, speaking about tribes and traditions, also our Israel nation, Am Israel, the nation of Israel, has had 12 tribes. And we have very strict traditions, by the way. And those traditions actually but mainly kept us and made us who we are nowadays. So I'm a true believer in traditions. Okay. And yet, our traditions, they have this very respectful place to a woman in her house. Unfortunately, not always beyond, but nowadays it has changed. It goes through some changes. So speaking about Africa and the region. So yes, there are tribes and there are some restrictions and limitations, but African women are as I said, I believe they are the next force of the engine behind the growth of Africa. You know, nowadays everyone,
There we go.
not even nowadays, it has been decade. I call it a decade of Africa. Everyone is talking that the African region is the upcoming, I don't know, the upcoming lion of the world,
The
right?
next big thing.
Yeah, the next big thing, the next China of the world. So yeah, but how you make yourself actually be that next thing? Yeah. So yes, you should keep your tradition. Yesterday I've been to an African art exhibition. African art is amazing. Yeah,
is.
and it comes from tradition, right? So you cannot leave your tradition behind. You don't leave your tradition, but you kind of let it be side by side with your personal growth, right? So I believe in personal growth in Africa. I believe that women will lead that growth in Africa, and I believe that that's what will make Africa great again. Yeah, speaking the language of
MAGA.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to use this opportunity before you put that song. Yeah, that you promised me to put.
Will do.
Yeah, I want just to send from here. I have so many African friends, ladies friends, really, my sisters, and I hope some of them are listening to your program now. And I just want to say, first of all, I really adore them, and I believe in them, and they are very important members of their community. And I want to also to raise a virtual toast to those amazing women of Kenya and Africa. And I want to say a few words in Kiswahili, if I may.
Go for it.
Yeah, can I? So I was doing my homework, so now I hope you will not laugh at me, yeah? So I will say, kwa hiwiu nawapongeza wanawake wa ajabu wa Kenya na Africa. So again, I'm raising that virtual glass of wine for my sisters in Africa and in Kenya especially. Yeah.
That was beautiful. And let me tell you, you speak better Kiswahili than I do. Trust me.
You. Don't flatter me.
Do not ask me to even try to say. Nope, let's move on. I will two more questions before I play you that song that I promise I must play you. Let's touch real quick on economic empowerment. That's a key to gender equality. But we see many women still struggling with access to credit, business opportunities, and of course, like you mentioned, equal pay. So how can we break these financial barriers in Kenya?
Yeah, actually, this is, as I mentioned before, that's a very important part of the work that I try to do here with Kenyan communities through our NGOs, through our Israeli people that come and kind of share knowledge. So there are so many things that could be done, but let's start from above and then go into details. I believe that, again, the answer is community. When you unite your forces, with, we are as one, we are strong, but we are not strong enough. But when we engage our community on the level of bringing even the small money that we have, and in Kenya it's quite well developed, the table banking, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, the key to the success is community. How you create a bigger collective that makes things to happen, right? But being more specific, how do we, as an embassy, for instance, help to those women, even speaking? What are the real tools that we give? So we go to biggest Kenyan banks, and we try to bridge, because banks, they don't give money to hustlers. No, they don't trust them because they don't believe they can bring those money back.
Yeah.
So that's the gaps that we usually, as an embassy, as a state, we try to bridge, working with banks, working with communal initiatives, sometimes or oftenly led by women, but not only. So we bridge those gaps between the big banks, us, and of course the Kenyan collectives. This is one tool that usually is given. Another tool is how do you produce, how you extend your yields. So we give the technology, we give the know-how. It's not even technology, it's mainly know-how. How do you harvest properly? How do you implement new know-how and techniques in things that you traditionally do so you can sell more to the market? So we bridge between the community and the market. So there are so many things that can be done, but the main and the focal thing, I would say, the central, is when you unite as a community. You cannot win when you are by yourself.
You cannot. Now, as we approach International Women's Day on Saturday, for the women and girls listening to the show right now, what's your message to them about resilience, about empowerment, and taking charge of their futures?
I would say, first of all, happy Women's Day, upcoming Women's Day, happy Women's Month, and be yourself. Don't be quiet. Speak yourself up. Start from your nucleus family. Respect your mothers, respect your father, but speak your voices. Proceed to your community, speak yourself out. And, I don't want to use cliches, but, the sky, we say the sky is the limit, but there is a glass ceiling, even in Western societies to women. So break that glass, but if you don't have to break it, it's okay. Not every woman should break the glass, but speak yourself up. Be a central member of your family. Be a focal member of your community. Love your country and change your country. That's what I would say. And wake up every morning and know what you do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very well said. YAHEL Margovsky-LOTEM, UN Coordinator, Political, Economic, Regional Affairs. Before you leave, there is this song you told us about that you want us to play. It's by Odetta. Why? Could you...
Oh, wow. Yes, thank you. You see, I'm a big lover of music, and Rose knows, and my colleagues know. Everyone who knows me properly knows that I cannot spend a moment without music.
Awesome.
And I love African performance. For us as Jews, we just celebrated, and we will celebrate very soon Pesach, which is Passover. For us, it's a very important day, not day, but tradition, holiday. Why? Because, we remember that on that holiday, the God gave us the option to become out of slaves, to be a free men and women. So this is our Passover. This is our Pesach, and we remember what is to be slaves. So for me, when I read, speaking about Africa, when I read about the story of African slavery. For us Jews, and for me on a personal level, it touches the very deep layers of my soul. And this Odetta, she's an Afro-American. She's not with us anymore. What she's done, she collected the songs that were sung by the African slaves in US. And she made them into songs that one of them we will hear today. And when I listen to it, I remember my nation. I remember that every day we live on this earth, we have to be thankful, and our traditions tells to us, remember that you used to be a slave, and remember that your freedom is something that you need actively to perpetrate. So I connect to this song on a very personal and on a very national level, I would say. So this is Odetta. She's an amazing Afro-American, in this case, singer. So I invite you to listen to this song, and because I really love it.
Thank you so much for that, Yahel. Here goes some Odetta.
This is The Big Conversation on The Breakfast Show here on KBC English Service.